No.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rocking Your Kindergarten Home Education Program. I'm so excited because this is the first time we've ever presented this, just because home education is very, very new um, in terms of kindergarten for people. This is the second year of funding, which is awesome that the government recognizes how valuable it is. And tonight we're going to help you get a feel for what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing. Okay. If I could ask everyone to mute, please. I hear some people not muted. And so I am here presenting. My name is Judy Arnall, and I'm going to present with Krista Jorgensen. Krista, do you want to kind of give us a little introduction of yourself?
Sure. My name is Krista. Sorry, I'm just admitting someone. And I have homeschooled my kids since they were in kindergarten, and now my oldest is in grade 7. They love homeschooling, and I love homeschooling too. I'm really glad to be able to homeschool them. We started out homeschooling in Ontario, and a few years back, 3 or 4 years ago, we moved to Alberta, and I met Judy and I joined the Alberta Homeschooling Association, and I want to help people. That's why we're here.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Um, so yeah, let's go. Oftentimes people get a question like, what is home education? Um, Everybody knows it by homeschooling, but in Alberta, homeschooling isn't really a legal term in Alberta education. It's called home education. So and it makes sense because it's not school brought into the home. It's so different than what school looks like. It really is a unique um, way to be and way to learn and teach. And I want to assure you all, you are already a veteran home educator. You have been teaching your child since they were a newborn, and there's no reason for you to quit as soon as they enter kindergarten or grade 1 or even the later grades. Absolutely not. Most parents can teach up to about a grade 8 level without teacher's manuals. After that, it starts getting a little more more specialized. So yeah, but so the other thing about home education in Alberta is that you don't have to teach. You are a general contractor of your child's education. So you can outsource to whoever you want. What you're doing is retrieving the responsibility for your child's education, but then you can outsource that to tutors or co-ops or um, forest schools or learning pods or childcare professionals or even to the child itself or siblings even. It's amazing how we can pull resources from wherever that we think would fit very well with our child. So it's very personalized and very easy to do. Super easy. So my introduction is I'm Judy. I am my work, actually, I taught for Alberta Health Services for 13 years in child development, and same at the University of Calgary, continuing education on parenting and child development and brain development. So I was very interested when my kids went to school to find out how education fits in the real world. So I have 5 kids, um, and yeah, they are all done. All done. 3 of my kids actually went to kindergarten in school. So I kind of know a lot about what the school does for kindergarten. And because I was a very active parent volunteer, I was on the parent council. And then my last 2 children did kindergarten at home through home education, but not funded, right? I am an advocate of non-punitive parenting. I don't believe in punishing kids to learn or do anything. And I've written several books on it. And my last book is on self-directed education because as my kids didn't want to do schoolwork, we kind of slid into unschooling, but that's a whole other topic. So I have 5 kids. So far, 4 of them graduated university, and one is there right now. So you can find us on Facebook, and we love teachers. I think teachers are amazing for doing what they do with what they have as resources. But when my kids were in school, it was the system that definitely needed improvement. I couldn't stand a curriculum that was 20, 30 years old. I couldn't stand the institutionalization of everything. Nothing was personalized. Everything had to be done by the book, and you just couldn't customize an education program in a bureaucracy. So in Alberta, we're kind of unique in that education is not where it takes place. Education is about who is responsible and who controls the decisions. So if you send your kids to school, you are abdicating your responsibility and handing it off to the school, and they control everything and they're responsible for everything. If you retrieve your responsibility back under home education, you get to make all the decisions and you get to decide everything, which is really, really nice because you know your child best. Absolutely, you do. So, I'm not going to talk much about my story other than I, when I first started homeschooling, my oldest two were grade 3 and grade 2, and then I had a daughter go into kindergarten. And just because, I needed to work with the older kids. So she loved kindergarten, but the next year she saw we were having so much fun at home that she said, I don't want to go to grade 1. I want to home educate too. And then I did school at home, which was not good. I became the yelling parent I didn't want to be. I threatened to send them back to school if they didn't do their work. And then I realized more and more how kids, that age learn, and they learn through play and activities and experiential activities. And um, it's really, really cool. That's if you go into an elementary school now, pretty well the first 3 grades, kids learn a lot through activities. They don't do a whole lot of textbook worksheet stuff. They do activities. So that was us. We just played for 10 years, gave up the schoolwork. Um, and then my kids' first full day of school was in high school, and they did a more so at high school, you want to switch to from meeting the home education outcomes to more the Alberta government outcomes. And if you want a diploma for them or they want a diploma, you follow those Alberta curriculum outcomes in high school. You can do what you want, grades 1 to 9. But in high school, you have to follow them. And they write diploma exams, and they did very, very well and moved on. So, yeah. So why home education? Why do people choose it? There's lots of reasons. We have 27 people here. I'm quite sure you have all your own reasons for choosing home education. And believe me, it's fine. You are not going to mess up your child. Let me guarantee that right now. Okay. You will not mess them up no matter what. Kids keep on learning whether we teach them or not. It's pretty amazing. Um, and kids, the great thing about home education is kids who are used to owning their time tend not to need adults to entertain them because they have so much time on their hands. They find things to do and entertain themselves. So, um, unlike school, kids get very used to being spoon-fed and told what to do, whereas kids who are on their own through home education kind of just pick up things to do. Now, there's lots of places children learn. This is from the Inspiring Education Symposiums that was run by the province in 2009 and 2011. The attendees came up with all the places that people learn. It's not just school, which is one of them, it's many places, super many places. So I talked about this already. You may have heard of a methodology of home education called unschooling. What that is self-directed education. So it's empowering children to learn through everyday life, their curiosity, their creativity, whatever they choose to learn. We facilitate that. So we don't have a program for them. We just look at what they're interested in, kind of like you do with toddlers and preschoolers, right? You have a preschooler who just loves learning about tigers. So you're going to take him to the library and get books out in tigers, and you're going to take him to the zoo. That's what unschooling is just following their interests. And through following their interests, they learn English language arts, they learn math, they learn science, they learn a bit about social studies too. So it's a good methodology of homeschooling. You don't sign up for unschooling, you just sign up for home education and use that as your method. So, statistics during COVID, home education exploded. And we haven't lost too many of them. This year, 2024, it went from 1% of the school age population to about 5% during COVID. And then we're down now to about 3%, but it is growing, 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 growing. During COVID, a lot of people thought they were homeschooling because they had to keep their kids online for 5 hours a day of online work. And we know now that does not work for young kids under age 12. So we weren't homeschooling then. We were being the partners of school in your living room, right? There's a big difference. The school was still responsible, not the parents. That wasn't true home education. There's a lot of research studies that support home education. And yeah, so let's cover kind of how does the education system work. So in Canada, only about 50% of children go to preschool, probably because we have to pay for it. So I never sent my kids to preschool. I thought that money was better spent saving for university and those RESPs. So, but we did a lot of play groups. I took them out in field trips, and kindergarten looks a lot like preschool nowadays. Again, it's important to note even kindergarten in Alberta is voluntary, right? But 90% of children attend kindergarten because it's fully funded by the government. And it helps, especially helps offset that cost of daycare for sure. And in 2023, the Ministry of Education decided to run a pilot to fund home education, kindergarten. And that's good because it gives credibility to the important learning that kids are doing then. Absolutely. So a lot of kids, the first experience of school is grade 1. And all they need to know for grade 1 is how to print their name, just because kindergarten's voluntary, right? So kids are coming in from other countries, they're coming in from other provinces. They may or may not have had preschool, they may or may not have had kindergarten. So grade 1 is the first entry for 6-year-olds. They just need to know how to print their name. So anything they do in preschool or kindergarten is pretty well play-based. So these are the choices in Alberta education. You can send your children to independent schools, public or Catholic schools, or charter schools. But home education is so different from the rest of the squares. Home education is so different in that we do not have to follow the Alberta programs of study, those 1,400 outcomes per grade. You do not have to follow the outcomes for kindergarten even, although they're pretty easy. It's pretty play-based. And that's the only segment of Alberta education where parents get funding to offset the cost of resources. Okay. Every other choice here, parents do not get funding. The schools get the funding because they're responsible for it. And like I said, you know your child best. So you know your child's personality, you know what their temperament is. Are they easygoing? Are they spicy? The personality, are they introverts? Are they extroverts? Their learning styles. Do they learn better through doing things or listening or seeing? All those things, and you can adapt your teaching to them. So half of my presentation tonight is kind of to talk a little bit about how children learn at that age and also the logistics of kindergarten. I'm going to go through the home education plan with you, things you might want to buy, those kinds of things, okay? So here, this is learning in action. So these are brain neurons, and this neuron is going to send a neurotransmitter down its axon down here to the neighboring neurons synapse. So it comes out of this axon to the nearby dendrite here. There's a gap here, as you can see. And when the neurotransmitter goes across that gap, it's called wiring or connecting, we call it, right? So that stimulates this brain cell. So let's see this in action. Are you going to work for me? Oh, why can't you play that? Oh, well, it's not playing. Anyways, it comes down here and it goes whoop, boop, 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 bing. Um, and so that's what happens in your child's brain. And it happens whether your child is studying a math workbook or they're playing a video game. Every child that breathes learns. They learn. This happens. The brain makes connections. Absolutely. Now, probably around age 5, kindergarten, they're making so many connections. About age 6, 7, they got to start pruning those connections, right? Strengthening the ones they use the most so that the brain is strong, well connected, but wisely connected by as they head into the teen years. So play grows those brain connections just as much as workbooks. And any child in kindergarten should have a play-based curriculum. They love to play, they learn through play. Actually, children of all ages need more play. Okay. So let's look at how kids develop. They develop physically, cognitively, socially, and emotionally, right? The brain develops from the bottom to the top and from the back to the front. So in kindergarten, your child's brain, so babies' brains mostly concern these three organs here: the brainstem, the cerebellum that governs gross motor skills, and the occipital lobe that governs vision. Um, all these things are very well developed in babies, and I like to think babies equal brainstem. And then toddlers, think of toddlers, they're very sensitive in that temporal lobe. They have a lot of tantrums. They're learning emotional regulation. And then preschoolers, age 3 to 5, are more sensitive in this parietal lobe, so that this is prime age to learn language. They're very, very prime to learn any language on earth, all 4,000 languages if you want. And then first grade, think frontal lobe, first grade. That's grades 1 to 6 is that frontal lobe is where they're really, really learning about all kinds of things in their environment. And then the puberty, prefrontal lobe, is when they're learning abstract concepts. They have that abstract brain. So, I'm not going to talk much about this, but toddlers learn to walk. We don't teach them. It's just developmentally programmed in their brains. Most of them are going to learn to walk on their own. Older toddlers, 18 months to 3 years, they all learn to talk. We don't teach them. We just talk. They're in an environment that's very enriched with language, and they pick up language if they have a dad who speaks German and a mom who speaks French, and they have a neighbor who speaks English, they're going to learn all 3 languages. And the early years are very sensitive periods for language development. And it begins actually in the uterus and it goes to about age 5, 6. These are the years that you want to talk to kids, you want to listen to kids, you want to read to them and talk to them and sing to them and just make their language rich with vocabulary and talking pretty well. So ages 3 to 5 is preschoolers, and they're kind of interesting at this age. They're really, really growing their understanding and growing their self-control. So this is a graph that shows you the development of self-control in children. Somebody has their mic on. Could you check it, everybody? Thank you. So you can see from age 0 to 3, very little self-control. That's why we don't send toddlers to school. And age 3 to about 5, they're gaining in self-control, right? That's why a lot of kids can't sit still in preschool, and preschool isn't for everybody. And then about age 6, 5, 6, they really took that big leap in self-control here. Okay. And then they take another big leap again from age 13 to 25. So this is why kids don't start kindergarten or school until age 6. They need the ability to sit down, be quiet, not talk, not bug their little neighbor. They need to learn all those skills, but they also need that brain development, that executive function to hold in their impulse control, right? And a lot of kids don't have it. Now, this is typical neurodevelopment. You get a child who has ADHD or is on the autism spectrum, that whole curve is going to move this way to the right, right? They're going to get self-control way later than neurotypical. So babies, toddlers, and preschoolers learn through their 5 senses. They're hearing, they're seeing, they're touching, they're smelling, they're tasting. Although by age 5, most kids aren't putting things in their mouths. Yay! But before them, they're exploring through that. So preschooler education, so from 3 to 5 is free play, multi-sensory experiences, an adult that responds and pays attention to them and reads and sings and talks to them. That's all they need to do. They don't need to do math worksheets. They don't need to learn fractions. Yeah, most kids pick up colors and numbers and things like that, but they don't even need to know that for grade 1. Okay. So then when kids get to age 6 to 12, they learn a lot more things, but like I said, they learn best through experiential learning. Not exactly book work, but learning. Unfortunately, when they go to school, schools delivered they from grades 1 to 3, they learn to read. From grades 4 to 6, they read to learn. Okay. So a lot of the content in grades 4 to 6 is delivered through textbooks and workbooks and paper. So they need everybody reading by grade 3 in order to do that. But if you're going to continue home education, you don't have to do that. You can teach through multi-sensory experiences. And that's what kids remember. It stimulates all parts of their brain. It's very, very good for them. Most kids learn to read around age 6, 7. We don't teach reading. We teach it through pre-reading skills like reading to them, using good vocabulary, articulation, just enriching their whole lives with literacy and they live in a very literate world. So kids learn to read average between about 4 to 12, but most around grade 1s to grade 2. And because they learn to read at that age, we assume that they're learning to read in school. But most home educators, their kids read about the same age too, whether you teach it or not. Okay, so, and then once they get to teenagers, well, then they're ready for more paperwork. They get that abstract brain and they're ready to solve abstract equations and learn about abstract theories and things like that. So, very intangible stuff. Okay, so let's talk about logistics, kindergarten. So I had to go hunting through my photo album today. And this was my third child's kindergarten class. So you can see in school what they do in kindergarten is kindergarten's 2 hours in the morning or in the afternoon. It's very, very short. You think you have all this free time and you really don't. You barely can run to Costco and back. But kindergarten is mostly learning how to social skills. So sitting quiet, practicing at circle time to listen to other people, not bug your little friend, The teacher will go over the days of the week, what the weather is, um, what month they're in the calendar, what the season is, basic things like that. Who has a birthday? So you get the months of the year, those kinds of things. So kindergarten is really, really fun. So there's not a whole lot of desks and rows in kindergartens. It's very much learning social skills. So they learn how to line up, they learn listening skills, they learn how to put their own clothes on and take them off. They learn a little bit about organization, like here's your paper your parents are signing, put it in your backpack, and half that stuff never comes home anyways. They're learning how to separate from family. I remember on first day of kindergarten, all the little kids that had tears in their eyes and they didn't want their moms to go or their dads to go. It was really, really sad, um, but it's a separation. They're learning how to talk in turn and basic just self-regulation skills. That's what they learn. I talked about this already. Now, kindergarten has a lot of centers that kids can explore during center time. So, out of that 2 hours, there's a block center, a kitchen. Do I have a picture of the kitchen? Oh, yeah, here's the kitchen. So, they had a big kitchen with plastic food and um, saucepans and things that kids could play kitchen, which was really, really fun. Um, they have a quiet book area, they have a musical instrument center, maybe a Play-Doh center for gross motor skills and things. So they have centers that kids can go to and play for maybe half an hour or so. Then they have common activities to do together as a class. So things like art projects, which are kind of on the messy side, right? You want parent volunteers helping out with that, and you want everybody to do that at the same time because it's messy and a big cleanup job. Then the kids will all go together to a computer lab, and learn things on a computer. And then they may have some gym time and learn some gym games. Then they might go to the school library and visit that, and they get to take one or two books out. And then they have a snack time, which takes so much time because, they can't unwrap their packages. And then they have recess, usually outdoors. So that takes a lot of time because they have to get dressed. And, the teacher's not going to help them get all 30 kids' boots on. And once a month, they have a field trip, which is way different from grade 1 to 9, where they get a field trip once a year. Kindergarten, they get a field trip once a month. Kindergarten is really fun. It really is. It's a lot like preschool or play groups. A lot of the same things in kindergarten. But my main point is, if you haven't got this so far, it's all hands-on experiential activities. Um, there are some very, very kindergartens that do like worksheets. They're university prep kindergartens, but not appropriate for brain development for this age. So these are really good play materials for kindergartens. A lot of these materials are from preschooler years where they're very open-ended. Kids can combine them in different ways. They can mix them up. They can build with them. And moving more into very structured play materials where there's only one way to play them, right? So more kits, more puzzles, more coloring books type things. So and these are all things you can buy for your home and claim them for funding. You can buy all these things. So open-ended, the better. Kids at age 5, they still like playing with water and sand and fire. We won't talk about fire though. Okay, at this point, I want to go and show you what a home education plan is. So if you've signed up with a board already, you've probably already um, had to submit a home education plan. But if you haven't yet, here's what it should look like. Okay, so I kind of, on the plan, I kind of gave you what a typical morning in school is like and what happens. So, so this is, you're going to meet the Alberta Home education outcomes. And we call those SOLO, for standing for Schedule of Learning Outcomes for Students Receiving Home Education. Okay. Now, you can also choose the government curriculum, but this is only 22 outcomes. It's very vague. It's very open. It's super, super flexible. You can change it anytime. Yeah, it's really good. So, for example, these first two outcomes are language arts, English language arts. So read for information, write and speak clearly. So these are things you can do in kindergarten. You can get home library books. Parents will continue nighttime bedtime reading. Writing, painting, and coloring supplies is required. Child may write a letter to Santa with parental help, right? So for mathematics, the only outcome here is use mathematics to solve problems in business, science, and daily life. So at 5 years old, you'll probably bake, play board games, and play. That's all you have to do. You don't have to write down, my child will learn how to add fractions. My child will learn how to count to 100. No, you don't have to get that specific. Even in grades 1, 2, 3, you don't have to get that specific if you don't want to. So here in this column, you list the resources you want to buy. So all these resources are things I wanted to buy with my funding. So I bolded it. And any activities you're going to do. And then on this side, you're going to write down how you're going to assess that your child's learning. And the most common assessments that home education parents use, now teachers, they may use different assessments, but you can use different ones too, is observation. You're observing your child having fun playing blocks. Maybe a discussion with your child. You watched a movie and you talked about it. You watched a Disney movie and you talked about the characters and how they might be feeling, things like that. I put that under health or social studies. You might take photographs. You're a parent, you're going to photograph things, cool things your kids do and make. So photographs, why not, right? So this is what the home education plan would be. So this is English language arts, math. For science, what we did was nature walks, play, went to the science center, went to the zoo. We played with a telescope, a microscope. We wanted to buy K'NEX and Lego. We wanted to buy pet and garden supplies. Because who doesn't want to plant a garden, right? You can claim all those things. Run them by your board first and make sure that that's on their yes list and not their no list, because boards vary. But absolutely, you can run those through. Social studies, we did a lot of just watching Disney movies. We had maps. We went to museums. We'd look things up on the internet. Of course, we wanted to get all those things funded. We went to Global Fest, which is or any festivals or museums are really fun for social studies. And then the rest of these things are more cross-curricular life skills like health, art, personal growth, right? So in those, like demonstrate personal characteristics such as respect, responsibility. Board games, good medium for doing that, right? Recognize the importance of personal well-being and health. So baking and cooking supplies for healthy things. Know the basic requirements of a healthy lifestyle. This is where you can put your swim lessons, soccer registration, baking supplies for healthy snacks, anything that, if your child does these things, make sure you keep your completion certificates. Art, music, drama, there's so much to buy here. Art supplies, theater tickets, ballet tickets. So home education is only funded at $450.50. So you're going to have to budget a bit here, like where you want to buy things, right? Books, purchases, bike lessons, software or hardware. If you want to buy computers or software programs, When your child gets to grade 1, they get double that. They get $901. So you may want to buy that laptop or tablet when they're in grade 1 rather than that. But you can claim educational apps, software programs, computer games, board games, all kinds of things, internet, classes. Okay, so this is the home ed plan. It shouldn't take more than 2 pages right here. And basically just follow your child's interests, what you think they would be interested in. You can change this at any time. You can change it 200 times through the year if you want. You're not going to be held to this. That's the beauty of home education is you decide what to drop, what to add, what to change. It's absolutely wonderful. Okay. Going back to our PowerPoint then. So that's the plan. But like I said, so this screenshot was from Alberta Education website before COVID. And they basically said that kids are not good at online learning until about age 10. Okay, so keep that in mind. Children learn through experiential learning. Absolutely. Okay, so home education, in case you're new to home education, kids can earn a government high school diploma under home education. They just have to switch from those 22 solo outcomes to high school course outcomes during high school, but you have 10 years to worry about that one. Don't worry about that. Absolutely not. Okay, I think I've covered pretty well everything I want to cover. I want to keep it simple. Oh, you're probably going to be assigned a facilitator, if not now, definitely by October. And he or she or they is a certified teacher, maybe a home education parent, but they're your partner and they provide a support role. So, what help can they provide? They will not be marking anything your child does. They might want to see some samples of what they do, some work samples or play samples. Um, but yeah, you don't send any work into them. They're not the teacher, you're the teacher, they're the support facilitator. And Alberta Ed rules is they have to come out twice a year. So the fall visit, they'll come out, meet your child, sit and have tea and cookies with you. And they do they go over your home education plan, right? And then in the spring, they go over with what you've done pretty well. And that's when you pull out your phone because a lot of times you think, oh, I haven't done anything, but really you've done a lot of things. And you go through your photos and you go, oh, yeah, we went to the Science Center for science and we went to the zoo 5 times. And my child did some projects at Home Depot, things like that. Okay, so it's very, very casual. It's not going to be the Inquisition. Don't worry. You're in charge, you're the boss. Okay, so you just share what your child's been learning, and they just assess that, yeah, your child's been learning, they've been progressing, there's no concerns, they can move on to next grade or next year. So it's a very social visit. Nobody gives any marks on home education. The only marks that anyone will give your child is the grade 12 diploma exams if they want marks and credits in high school courses. It's the only exams, quizzes they have to take. Okay, so there's no testing ever. Okay, I said that already. And most parents can teach up to grade 8. And like me, my math ends at grade 8, but I had 5 kids that wanted to continue home education through high school. So so what they had to do was they either switched to online for high school or they stayed under home education, did credits, and we hired tutors, or they self-taught themselves, or they could learn in other things like teacher taught pause, things like that, or co-ops. Okay, so think beyond workbooks. Think about how can my child learn through 5 senses, through my sight, hearing, um, touching, tasting, talking, things like that. There are lots of places to get hands-on materials. There's Scholar's Choice. They're online now. There's kid stores, education station, mastermind toys, dollar stores, that thing. Toys R Us. You can buy all those cool science kits and things like that, which will eat up your funding really fast, right? So very fast. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to stop talking and see if anybody has any questions because I think I covered everything, but I never know if I've covered everything. So I'm going to pause the recording here. So the question is, what is a good time if we start out home education through kindergarten? What's a good time to put kids back into school if they want to go back to school? Um, First, I'm going to say that kids go back to school all the time from home education because they're curious. They want to know what it's like. Maybe they've never ridden a school bus and they want to. There's so many reasons why. Um, so if they go back to school, they go into the grade that matches their age. So if you, let's say you keep them out for kindergarten and you keep them out for grade 1, but they want to go back for grade 2. So then you just put them into grade 2. That's it. There's no testing to see if they're up to grade 2 level. And when you think about it, kids come in all the time from different countries, different provinces. Nobody's going to take the time to test them. They're going to go into that grade level classroom. And if the teacher feels they need extra support, they'll get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
When is a good time is when your child wants to do it. I'm a advocate that if your child really, really wants to try classroom, let them try it. And you know what? Again, you can let them try it all of September. And if they don't like it, they want to go back to home education, you pull them out on that last day of September, panic and get it with the school board so you get the funding. But you can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I used to do that too. If my child signed up for, I had a child who went back in grade 3. Oh, she insisted on going in grade 3. Um, Grade 7, grade 9, grade 10, grade 12. So I got to dating my school fee check on the last day of September. I need to get that money back sometimes. Now,
Mm-hmm.
best times to go, like if a lot of kids start to go to school grade 7, because that's a time that they mix up feeder elementary schools and kids are all mixed to in different social groups. It's a good time to break up those social groups. Be
Mm-hmm.
grade 5. If a middle school is in your neighborhood school, grade 5 is a good time. I would put your kids back in grade 9. That was a mistake because they're all very well cemented into cliques by then. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Grade 10 is another natural good break because they're all broken up into different classes too. So,
Mm-hmm.
in the early years, I mean, it's up to you and your child. If your child really wants to try it, but you're okay if they don't want to go back or they want to pull out mid-year, you can
Mm-hmm.
go, right? It's so fluid. You only sign up for a year. So this time next year you're going to have to sign up for grade 1 if you want to carry on home education. You got to do the notification and the home ed plan again. Whereas in school you know, um, they just promote kids without
Right.
re-signing up. So
Right.
does that?
Okay. Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of thinking from like a social aspect, primarily like, there's a lot of big changes with going to school and then also just friend groups and stuff. So that was very helpful. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Up till about grades, I'd say more around grade 4, they start getting very clicky, but like grade
Mhm.
1 to 3, kids welcome all friends and yeah, they're
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. I had someone tell me like kids are very resilient, right? So they kind of go with the flow no matter what, and they'll figure it out no matter what. But it's nice to have some insight on what it would look like on at various years, right? And kind of give yourself a heads up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and most kids up until about age 12, they don't really have lifelong friends. Like they have friends for the year. that
Mhm.
they have common interest in, but the real true lasting friendships tend to start in puberty.
Right. Yeah.
So
Mhm. Okay. Thank you so much.
thanks. We have a question in the chat group. For the funding, do we need to submit the receipts for reimbursement now, or is there a deadline? We may continually purchase through the year. Absolutely, you will. You'll have more stuff to buy at Christmas, believe me. So after October 1st, the schools are set on who's registered where, and that's when your board will let you know that, yeah, you can start posting receipts. They'll tell you how to do it. So I would post as many receipts as you can. They won't fund all of it. Usually you get half your funding in the fall, half your funding in the spring. But yeah, submit them for October, and you should get a check in November or December then. Yeah. Another question is, can I apply for funding if my application for registration is still being reviewed? Well, if the school authority is still reviewing your notification, they have to let you know within 15 business days if they're going to supervise your program or not, right? So if they say yes, all's good, you're in, you're guaranteed funding. Absolutely. They should let you know within 15 business days. So if they don't, call them up because time's running out. The last day is Friday, September 27th this year, which changes every year because of the weekend. Another question, do home ed students have access to additional supports? Yes, for the first time ever, home ed students 2 years ago got access to supports through AISCA. That's AISCA. So you would go to AISCA and look up their supports for home education students, what they have there and what they offer. So that's kind of handy. Another question, any advice on how were you able to answer questions with people who are not really open to homeschooling and finds it difficult to accept your decision? Yeah, that's a toughie. That's so common. Um, I think probably the best thing to say is thank you for your concern. I appreciate that you're worried about my child. um, Here's a really good book to read about home education. And when you're done reading that book, let's have a discussion because a lot of people have a lot of misinformation and myths about home education. And even in schools, like teachers don't even get anything mandatory on home education in their teacher training in university, which means principals don't get that either. So a lot of the school system doesn't know much about home education, and a lot of society doesn't. So I would ask them to get informed first before you have a conversation with them. But I don't know, everybody has different ways of handling that. Krista.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
So if you're having trouble finding people or like having to respond to a lot of people who are not accepting of you homeschooling, I would advise you and I would advise everybody to try and find a homeschooling community. It's so important and it really helps you. And it'll also help any child or children that you're homeschooling to feel like they're also part of a community. And I know in Calgary and Edmonton and in many, many of the smaller communities in Alberta and across Canada, there's groups of homeschoolers. And you can find a lot of the groups through Facebook. Just search for your community name along with a term like homeschooling, and you'll probably find others around you that are homeschooling too.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Krista.
No problem.
We have another question. Oh yeah. So in regards to speech and language therapy, communication, they're one of the supports under AISCA. So you would access them through AISCA, that AISCA. We have a question. Does the school board send a copy of the education plan to complete, or do we need to submit a form with the plan created by ourselves? most school boards do send a plan with those 22 outcomes. But if you want a copy of a sample one, we have a lot of samples of every grade in the Alberta Homeschooling Files section of the Facebook group. Or you can just email me and I can send you a particular grade if you're homeschooling more than kindergarten. I can send you a grade for that one if you're not on Facebook. And here is my email address. Hey, anybody else? Sorry.
There was another question that I think maybe you didn't address. It says, we're torn as I'm homeschooling my kindergartner, but my oldest is in public school, but he's gifted. It's been a struggle advocating with the school to get my oldest what he needs, as he's at a grade 3-4 learning level. Would it hurt him to homeschool him next year for grade 3 and put him back in for high school when the time comes?
Okay, good question. It would not hurt him at all, just because with home education you can customize everything for his interests and make things more fun and interesting. Because like I said, you don't have to use textbooks and workbooks. You can use live experiences that help. Yeah, I would absolutely do it and put him back in for high school. Maybe, maybe, maybe even grade 8, you could put him back in, or grade 9. It depends. Like if you're really good at teaching, helping out with math in grade 8 and 9, good for you. Keep them under home ed. But I found grade 8, 4 of my kids went into STEM careers, and grade 8 was a pivotal year to learn math. And that was their first year of math on paper. So, but you can also do that under home education too. So if he wants to home educate, that's the best thing you can do for him. Go for it. I would.
And depending on where you're located, some of the schools offer, like, I know in Calgary, there's a school that does like 2 days a week. So if you're looking like he wants to have friends, then that he goes to school with, and he needs that social connection, that works for some people, and they do like half in school and half homeschooling is another option.
Mhm.
At some families.
And also weekends. I mean, my kids always, they had friends and they stayed friends with their kids that went to school, even though they homeschooled. Um, and we just did it. We would do sleepovers on weekends, or more weekend play dates kind of thing, right? When everyone could get together. So it wasn't as much after school, but sometimes the neighborhood kids would come home from school and they take it away after school, or yeah. It doesn't mean he's going to give up those friends he made at school. So, yeah, you can keep those connections if you're willing to do a bit of driving. The downside.
Yeah. Also, sometimes if your kid gets involved in sports or other extracurricular activities, they make lots of friends that way. My kids are on a jump rope team, and they've made tons of friends that way, and they love it, and they've made friends across the province.
Yeah, right? Wow, you do a lot of driving then.
Yeah.
Or groups like Girl Guides or Junior Forest Wardens, or community hockey, community soccer. They make friends through all those things, right? It's not, people don't just, kids just don't make, kids are natural. They make friends everywhere. It's a little harder for teens. Teens tend to get really self-conscious, and then they often need an activity to focus on to make friends. But kids under age 12, they make friends everywhere for sure. Yeah. Okay, well, until I'm just gonna do yeah, that's good. Any tips and tricks? If you're going on to grade 1, um keep in mind that home education doesn't take very long. It takes very little time compared um, to school. And it's because the bigger your group, the more everything takes time. I actually discovered this the other day when my kids were home for a visit. And for us as a group to get out the door took twice as long as it normally does. And it made me realize, yes, this is why school takes so long. You're only as fast as your slowest person. So don't worry, it doesn't take much time, and then kids have a lot more time to do reading. A lot of home educators read a lot of books. You know, as kids learn to read and love reading, they read a lot of books and they play a lot, which is good. Even grade 12, where my kids did high school credits and got diplomas, they didn't spend more than 2 to 3 hours a day on their two cores and options. So, you know, it was great because they had a lot of time to discover interests and what they wanted to do for their life's work. So that's good. A lot of home educators, they use a planned curriculum and they don't finish a year because, you know, we all get distracted and life happens. But that's okay. They just start the next year, next curriculum, and just keep going, and it's all good. Yeah, like Krista said, join a support group, and here I think socialization, kids meet kids everywhere, and it's so much more diverse. And I hate to say this, but it's true. Peers are not always nurturing, but adults are. And in home education, there's a lot of adults around. So bullying is reduced, peer pressure is reduced. It's all good. A lot of people set up a formal homeschooling room. A lot of people like me don't. To me, our homeschooling is the kitchen, the workshop, the community, the garden, and the video game room. I don't have I don't have space for all this, but actually, I think I started out with bookcases and things, and most of that stuff my kids didn't use, so I reluctantly let it go. But everybody's different. However, it works for you, it works for you. So you there's lots of ideas on the internet too. Okay, and I'm just gonna
I just had someone asking where would they find the recording of this, just so that they can listen to it again. So I replied that it would probably be posted on the website, but maybe you have
yeah,
more.
absolutely. So if you go to our website on Alberta Homeschooling, and if you go under the tab where it says webinar help, we have a bunch of webinars here. We have Krista talking about how kids learn to read, which is fantastic. We have webinars here on how to do home education through high school, how to begin in the middle of the year, what you need to do, ways to motivate kids when they have to do some work and they don't want to, unschooling, we have webinars. So yeah, anytime you need a boost or you need a confidence builder, go here. And this is where the kindergarten one is going to be. We had a lot of people ask for the recordings, so that's good. Yeah, good question there. Okay. Back to
There's one other question. It says, how do the time estimates, I think the time estimates for learning per grade that you were talking about, how do they work for unschooling in the younger grades?
okay, so unschooling is 24 hours a day. I say. So there's not really time estimates. So unschooling is just, you know, going about your daily life and just following your kids' interests. But even when you do that, if you don't set aside at like 9 to 10 p.m., 9 to 10 a.m. every day, we're going to do schoolwork. If you don't do that, you still do get in a routine when you unschool, right? So, like Mondays was laundry day, kids would play. Monday night, we'd all go to the library and then we'd bring books home and we'd have reading. Tuesday would be a homeschool lesson somewhere in the community. Maybe it was, you know, parkour or something like that. Then we come home and we play. And then like you do have a structure to each week that you build in time for socialization. You know, a lot of home educators go to park days on Friday afternoons because that's the end of the week. They love meeting up with other homeschoolers. Um, in the winter, they go to play places. We used to meet up at the Science Center every Friday afternoon. I'm really sad because the one Friday afternoon that Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt were there, we weren't there. So darn. But yeah, and the beauty about afternoons is so homeschoolers tend to like to get anything done at home in the morning, and then the afternoon's free to go out and do whatever in the community, right? Maybe it's groceries or play dates or wherever they want to go, which is kind of nice. And then they come home, they get to have supper every night. Um, and then the evening is free for family time if you want to watch a movie or play a board game. And the beauty is a lot of the lesson providers out there, the rec centers, um the trampoline parks, the museums are recognizing that homeschoolers want to do things during the day, and they're empty until 3:30. Swim lessons, you get to do them during the day now, you know. And if nothing's organized in your community, how about you organize it? If you want to organize swim lessons for home educators at the local pool, go talk to them. Tell them you want to fill their pool during the day. They'll be more than happy to do that. And then advertise it out among your homeschool friends and say, hey, I've organized these swim lessons. I need some money if you're in. I really advise you to collect the money first because you want commitment. So yeah, that's how it works. So long story, unschooling is there's no set times. It's just following your child's interest. But I would tell my kids at 8 o'clock at night, I'm done. This will have to wait till tomorrow. So yeah. So hey, any more questions before we sign off here? We're about 9:07. Anything I haven't thought of? I think I mentioned it's only for a year. We all home educate till age 6. You can't stop kids from learning, and there's a lot of support out there. Okay, tons of support. There's so many benefits to home education. I don't know, Krista, what was your biggest benefits for your family?
I think it's a lot less stressful than what going to school would be for us. And I also love that my two kids, they're the best friends with each other, and they can be friends with anybody who's any age. It doesn't matter to them what age their friends are. And when kids go to school, oftentimes that really does matter. And so I think they get a broader spectrum of friends. And I think that's a really nice thing for them, just like how adults have friends and they have friends who like the same things that they do. That's not just friends who um, live in the same community as them. And I think that's really good for their development.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things too is our kids are like there's 11 years between the oldest and the youngest, and yet they live in different countries and cities, and yet they all get together regularly over Discord and they video game, and which I, by the way, think video games is an excellent learning tool. I have bought them and claimed them with my funding because especially, when you have kids with ADHD, they learn a lot through gaming. Absolutely a lot. So I really like that benefit. It was a very, very, very good choice for us. Okay, I don't see any more questions, so maybe we'll sign off then. So, Just, oh, I wanted to just mention, if you want to know more about unschooling, I'm trying to clear out my garage of paper books. So I'm giving away Unschooling to University, but it costs $20 to mail it. It's very thick. It doesn't fit in that little slot in the post office. So if you want to e-transfer me $20, I will pop a copy in the mail for you. And it might give you a new perspective on a different method of home education. Okay, Krista, any last things you want to add? Last words?
Don't think so. I think you said a lot. There's one more message here, just another, lots of people saying thank you. I think it was really great, Judy. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to everybody about homeschooling for kindergarten. It's scary, your first year homeschooling. I've been there, you've been there, we've all been there. And it's good for people to know that they're not alone and they don't need to be as scared. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, it is. And kids are going to, it's just so personal and customized, and it's really, really good for them too, for sure. And then yeah, high school, they're a lot more self-confident, I think. I think my kids got self-confidence in high school. They they knew, you know, ways to study, ways to find things, and yeah, I think you're not gonna mess them up, whatever you do. Not gonna. Great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us tonight, and enjoy your kindergarten year. Have fun. Play, play, play. Enjoy your child, because they grow up so fast. So thanks a lot, and we'll close off then. Bye.